Why is it important to understand the natural biogeochemical cycles? It is first important to note what it is and what it looks like. The biogeochemical cycle is any path of the elements of living matter that are circulated around. There are many different types of paths, such as the carbon cycle, the nitrogen cycle, the hydraulic cycle, the phosphorus cycle, and the oxygen cycle. Matter is consistently recycled overall, so you will go into one of those many cycles. We start with the sun that gives power to the producers that release heat, and then the cycle will either go into the consumers or the decomposers, which they also produce heat, which is where we get like the global warming and stuff coming from, because after all of this, everything produces heat. And then after it goes to the consumers, they will end up as decomposers. And then after everything ends up as decomposers, it'll lead to the inorganic nutrient pool, where they get pulled from again. Overall, water is the key component to life. The water cycle is probably the highest on the list that we care about. Water makes up more than half of our bodies. But that is not the only thing our body runs on alone. Your body also needs carbon, which is important in the carbon cycle. Nitrogen is critical for human agriculture, which is where the nitrogen cycle comes in. Phosphorus is the main ingredient in artificial fertilizer, which is used in agriculture, which comes from the phosphorus cycle. And the water cycle really helps to maintain all the other cycles. For example, with the ocean, that's a major holding space for carbon. So to get the carbon cycle going, the water cycle also has to be in place. So now moving on, how might this understanding prevent or decrease degradation in our natural system? The overexploitation of resources causes a stunt in all of these cycles, which in turn is hurting the natural system of the earth that has in place for us to live. We ourselves are part of that ecosystem that we live in. When we die, we're going to be turned into one of those many parts, or all of the cycles between the carbon and the nitrogen, all of that. And there are many solutions to come up to help with these cycles a little bit. Recycling, reduce, reuse, recycling has always been like the main proponent of all of this. But sometimes recycling can hurt the ecosystem. When we affect it too much, we're not focusing on reducing as much, and sometimes we need to reduce more than we need to recycle. For example, with water, there are many places in the world that don't have water, and in the USA, we use tons of water for almost no reason. I know many people who take showers for like 3 hours sometimes, depending on like what their body can handle in the shower, because that's just like a relaxing place for them to go. And that's not really reducing our water usage and helping other countries and stuff like that. So reducing is one of the biggest solutions for keeping the natural system that we have in place. But we also need to do things to help with other things, like, invasive species, things like that, to satisfy like the nature cycle. We are called on to help the nature cycle and the natural system that's supposed to be happening just as much as any other kind of animal is. Cats, dogs, bears, deer. We are a part of every life, every ecosystem that we have.